police work is not easy.
That's not pretty.
We make the shit look easy by what we do, how we are as individuals. Police work is tough, man. A lot of motherfuckers don't have no clue what police work is. You know, a lot of officers retiring don't live a year after retirement.
Because of the stress?
Because of the stress, because of drinking, failed marriages, from day in, day out, over 20 years dealing with the fuck the city offers you.
No, but that's the stuff that's behind the curtain.
That nobody, and it's cool, you don't have to care, I get it, but it's a reality.
So that's a podcast, it's called Real Ones, and it's by John Bernthal, Shane from Walking Dead. He hosts this podcast. He's got a handful of different podcasts that he's done, or different interviews, and there's a couple of them in there with some current and retired police officers. These two gentlemen are currently, I think, Baltimore City police officers, I think. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I thought that was very important. I was going to talk about responding and reacting, your different responses, your reactions. I was going to touch on that, but I just did like a whole half-hour video and found myself just rambling because, you can't spend so much time talking about it. But I went back and I was like, man, I've listened to this podcast probably like 3 or 4 times. And that's one thing I've always talked to people about. This is what I always try to communicate to people about is how tough this job is. Everybody talks about, you signed up for that. You chose that job. Yeah, you're right. I did. And for the most part, I knew what the job entailed. I knew what the expectations were. But like with any job, man, so that doesn't make it okay. Because I knew what I was getting into, that doesn't make it okay to treat me like shit. That doesn't make it okay for you to hate me. That doesn't make it okay for me to be spit on, for me to be hit, for me to be killed. That doesn't make it okay just because I quote unquote signed up for it. If you're working at McDonald's, somebody slaps a dog shit out of you because you gave them the wrong milkshake, is that okay? Hell no. Police are called. Somebody's going to jail. But if it happens to me or one of my brothers or sisters, well, shit, they signed up for that. They knew what they were getting into. That's not cool, man. And that's something I really want to get into. And I'm gonna be talking to 2 gentlemen next week that I'm gonna touch on this because, as a society, we have come to it's become acceptable to hate certain groups of people. And my example of that is if I'm attacked by a certain person, let's just say I'm attacked by a black man. A black man attacks me, puts me in a hospital. To the point where I might lose, not be able to return to work, right? Is it okay? Does that make it acceptable for me to hate all black people? Hell no. So my question is, why if one cop messes up, people mess up all the time. One cop messes up, makes a mistake. Why is it socially acceptable to hate all cops because of that cop? And you say, oh, that's not how it happens. That's not what happens. Bullshit. Because I don't know how many calls I go on. You people, you guys, y'all. It's become socially acceptable. And part of that, like I'm not putting that all on the community. I'm not putting it all on social media, on the media, whatever. Part of that is our fault, man. Like I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Like that's part of that is our fault. Whether you want to put it on the municipality you work for, the government, your administration, your coworkers, you. Part of that is our fault because we're not communicating. And what I like to tell people is, again, I think I said it before, if you treat people like an animal, pretty soon they're going to start to act like an animal. If you're berated every day, if you're talked down to every day, you start to not give a fuck. And it's hard because there's so many people that I work with that truly care. They want to make a difference. Like they want to come out here and save the world. Man, I asked this dude one day, he's no longer a cop, thank God. But when I train people, one of the first questions I ask them is, why did you want to be a cop? Why are you here? And there's no like right or wrong answer. I'm just trying to get an idea of who you are and why you want to be a cop. You know, some people might straight up tell you, like, yo, it's a paycheck. Some people might tell you, man, I'm passionate about this because when I was a kid, this happened to me and I want to be there like that cop was for me, whatever. Or you genuinely want to help people in all aspects that you're able to help them in. This cat told me one time, I said, yo, why did you become a cop, bro? Why you want to be a cop? My man said, have you ever seen Superman? Bro, I almost pushed him out of my car. But those are the kinds of, he's not a cop anymore. He's not a cop. But you have those people that are cops. They think like that. They think this is a goddamn Marvel show out here. We're out here throwing it up, fucking Avengers and shit. And they think that way for the same reason that I think I want to help somebody. For the same reason that you got dudes that are in these vice units that are trying to clean up the streets and build that particular mentality. You have these kind of people because we're all humans. We all see things differently. We feel differently. We express differently. I'll be the first one to tell you I'm terrible with words. So to get me to try to communicate something effectively, man, it takes me a minute because I'm terrible with words. So we got to understand, we got to find that fine line to be able to communicate effectively with the community and with the police. So on the policing side, a wave. I don't know how many times. So when I became a police officer around the area that I'm in now, my sergeant, my sergeant who was my FTO, huge, big, silverback black dude. I mean, just this big, barrel-chested black dude from Georgia. And he'd come up here, and him and I are driving down into to the south end. And we're going to a predominantly black area, and I'm waving at everybody. Hand out the window, I'm waving and shit. What up? How you doing? He said, well, fuck, you running for mayor? And I looked at him, and he was like, why are you waving at these people? They don't give a shit about you. And I was kind of like, a minute, I'm like, man, first of all, why are you waving at these people? Second of all, like, bro, I'm sociable. I'm a motherfucking butterfly out here spreading my wings. Flat, flat, baby. I'm out here. And that's who I am. I'm going to speak to you. And that's because of how I was raised. Like, I was raised to address people. But also in my mind, I'm like, man, if I wave, at least they know that I'm making an attempt. I'm sociable. Try to break that, like, aggressive barrier. So then we're cruising, and then one day I was on my own, man, and I'm cruising down by the Harrison homes, and there's a bunch of little kids out. There's a couple of adults around these little kids, but I wave, and this kid waves back. Immediately, I'm like, oh, shit, what up? I wave. Within a split second, I wave, the kid waves, mom slaps the shit out of the kid for waving at me. I mean, I seen that shit. I was like, damn. And the kid was like 5, 6 years old. Wasn't an old kid. But I was like, damn, that kid just got slapped for waving at me. I mean, and I seen the mom. Like, don't fucking talk to them. Like, I was like, oh, shit. And so that's something I won't forget. But for the most part, like, I had, I forget who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody recently, or maybe I heard it on a podcast or something. But it was like, they had spoken to somebody in the community, or this person that was telling me was the one telling me that, cops don't even get out of the car no more. And we just, like, they don't even wave. And I almost wonder, like, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses, but I almost wonder if they don't, because it's become the norm to not socialize. Especially when I'm working, if I'm walking into a gas station or I'm in a store or I'm in a public place, there's people around, I will acknowledge everybody I see. I will try to make contact with almost everybody and acknowledge everybody. Like, I'm not physically greeting every person, but if we are in close proximity and we make eye contact, I'm going to address you. Hey, how we doing? What's going on? What's happening? Living the dream, like same shit. But I'm going to address you. And I don't think so many people do that anymore. Like, it's not very common to do that. It happens all the time, but not as much. And the reaction, I see it, man. I see it. I don't know how many times. And I used to be an asshole. Because if I hold the door for you and you don't say thank you, you're welcome. That's what I used to do. Like, not necessarily when I'm working, but, I'm an asshole. I call you out on it. If I do something respectful and you don't show some respect back, I'm going to let you know. You're welcome. But you get that response. Like, I still get it all the time. Hey, how you doing? And just turn the head. And my first reaction is to be like, man, fuck you. But that's the bad reaction. And I say that like, no, that'd be my first reaction, but I don't know what's going through their mind. I don't know if, they just had a bad encounter with police, or if they had a bad day working. Doesn't matter who fucking says hello to them. They're not talking. I don't know that. So what I've started to tell myself is, at least I can say I tried. I made the attempt. And man, like I've said, I've always been super angry, and I've really been trying to work on that recently. And like a month or so ago, I was I was in the area that I work, and I was at the gas station. I'm just sitting there coking and joking with everybody in that joint, man. I mean, like, just talking to everybody. The manager's going back and forth. I'm with the cashier, customers. There's a guy who used to be incarcerated and was in the housing unit that I worked in. And I've seen him since he's been out. He frequents that store, and he's like, hey, what's up, C? Because people can't pronounce my last name, so it's either C or Big C. He's like, hey, what's up, C? We're shaking hands. There's a former police officer in there who's retired, talking to him. And this guy, like, everybody's like, oh, shit. I'm like the social butterfly of the gas station. And I'm holding the door open because people are coming and going. And this guy walks up, and he's like, he goes to shake my hand. And I don't shake hands, so just... for the most part, I don't shake hands because of cooties, right? I don't know, you've been digging in your booty and picking your nose and you want to shake my... No, I'm good. I appreciate it, but I'm good. So a lot of times, like, I'll dap you up or be like, oh, hey, my excuse is like, oh, hey, I can't shake your hand. It might look like I'm taking something, so I boom, I give him some dap. But this guy comes up and he was shake my hand, and I put my fist out, give him a little fist bump, and he like looks at me like out of the corner of his eye, and he kind of smiles, and he said, he said, you changed my life, man. I appreciate it. He's like, I can't tell you how much I thank you. And he walks in the store. And I'm like, what the fuck? So the car he pulled up in, there's a female in the driver's seat. And I let the door shut. I walk over. I said, hey, excuse me. I don't know him. But he just, said what he said. And she can hear what he said. I was like, who is he? And she just kind of smiled. And she's like, don't worry about it. She's like, he would have told you. And I was like, okay, well, I just want to make sure that I'm, like, I feel bad because I don't remember who this dude is. She's like, no, apparently you had a talk with him like a while back, a long time ago, and whatever you said to him really made him look at things differently. And he's grateful for that. I was like, oh, shit. I felt pretty good. Felt bad because I don't know who this dude is. I wish I could remember that incident. But apparently I had an impact on him, and so that made me feel really good. I was like, it also reinforced, you never know what you say or do, how that's going to come back to you. So that really enforced me, like, man, double check what you say. Because that also goes into, when I worked at the prison, so COs, like a CO, not like a jailer, but a CO, a correctional officer. I guess they're all called. Prison guard, okay? A prison guard, you work in a prison. Prison guards are not considered law enforcers. They're not law enforcement officers. To a degree, bear with me. Don't yell at me. I know some of you guys are going to flip out, but they're not, unfortunately. They're not allowed to carry a gun like a cop is. Because they don't have arresting powers, for the most part. So they don't carry a gun. So the big deal when I was there, when I worked at a prison, was like, oh, everybody's going out and getting their concealed carry license. Oh, you never know who we're going to come across. But yet you'll still treat that fucking person like shit when you go into work. And then got the balls to say, well, I don't know who I'm going to come across. So one day I was at the DMV. My kids were little, probably like, 2013 maybe. I'm in the DMV, and I forget I had my daughter or my son with me or something. And I'm looking at this dude, and I'm like, man, this dude looks familiar. All of a sudden, sub Big C. I was like, oh, again, nobody calls me Big C unless they're from the prison because you can't pronounce my name. So it was a good interaction, but that was the first time when I was like, oh shit, like, this is the truth. Like, you got the ability to run into these motherfuckers outside of work. So then I left the prison and became a cop, and I was training a dude. And we pulled this cat over, man. This dude is on his cell phone. I think he ran a red light or something. I'm like, boom, good training scenario. Get him. So we go and we do a traffic stop. And we're in the East Bluff, predominantly black side of town. And he stops this dude. And, to this day, I've seen the dude numerous times. But I call him John Coffey, the Green Mile. This huge, massive gentleman. I mean, it took, I think, like 3 pairs of handcuffs to put on this dude. He was a monster of a man. And it was a good encounter. I don't remember if we wrote him any tickets or not, but the dude could have went to jail, and we didn't take him to jail. I think he could have lost his car. There was things going on other than the traffic stop that we could have taken further action, and we didn't. And that's where that officer discretion comes into play, right? But that was a good training moment. So I never forget the first time I seen this cat. I'm talking a big, just John Coffey, huge black man with a mouth full of gold. And when I say huge, probably like 6'5", 6'8", 350, 380, but not fat. Like, we ain't talking about Albert. We're talking about John Cena. Like, this huge man. Paws like catcher's mitts. I mean, makes my hand look like one finger compared to it. Like, huge man. I can't emphasize it. The reason why I'm so descriptive about his size was because a one-on-one, there ain't no one-on-one with this dude. You got to call backup. I mean, a taser, you probably got to shoot him in his kneecap or something. Like, this dude ain't going down. So, my wife and I were in the store. The first time I seen this dude after that, we're in the store. All of a sudden, I see this gigantic dude, just smile at me. And I was like, fuck. I don't think I had my gun on me. I'm with my wife. I'm like, shit. Dude smiles. He's like, you don't remember me, do you? And I was like, oh my God. That's like the worst thing you want to hear from somebody. I'm like, oh my God. Getting shaky. Jesus. My knees are about to buckle. I'm about to piss myself. I'm just playing. But I was like, nah, man, I don't remember you, dog. Not quite sure who you are. What's up? And then he told me, I was like, oh shit. You know, I was waiting for that sigh of relief because he was acknowledging like it was a good encounter. And I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Friday After Next when Cat Williams and Terry Crews are at the party and Damon goes over to Money Mike. Like they introduce each other and he goes to like shake his hand and he yanks him over to him. Like Terry Crews grabs Cat Williams' hand and like pulls him in to give him like a hug. And Cat Williams is like, damn, it's like the Matrix. That's what I felt. This big behemoth gorilla silverback. When I went to shake his hand and we went to hug up, like I came up to his belly button and shit, and he like giving me a hug. I'm like, oh my God. That could have just as easily been a very bad encounter had I been an asshole. Because I've seen him, matter of fact, a couple weeks ago, I'm driving in my neighborhood now, and he pulls up at a red light and like looks over. I see this big ass gold teeth smile. I was like, what's up? I'm like, oh shit, what up? So I mean, I've had encounters with this dude numerous times outside of that first interaction. And had my first encounter with him been a negative one, that's numerous opportunities for him to get at me. You know, and I mentioned, I didn't have my gun on me. You know, just because we're cops, we ain't no different. Like, if you come at me, I can't just be like, oh, I'm a cop, I'm going to shoot you. I can't do that. So, the gun really don't matter. You know what I mean? So, when you work in a confinement setting, you got to learn real quick how to treat people. And if you treat people like shit, expect to be treated like shit afterwards. You know, it used to be that if you were the police, there was some fear in society. Like, man, you can't do that. That's a cop. You can't do that to them. That's a cop. That shit don't matter no more, man. People don't give a shit what you do. In fact, it's almost like a bonus if you're a cop. Oh, yeah, get him. So I think we need to really recognize that repercussions can come even after that first encounter. And as society, we need to understand, as a community, we need to understand that cops are human too, man. You know, just like you having a bad day, and when you call the police and we show up and you're cussing us out, and your excuse is, and we're like, can you calm down, please? And you're like, fuck you, I've had a bad fucking day. So have I. I've had a bad day. You know, I know a handful of cops whose kids either have been, are, or are in and out of the hospital. You don't think that plays a toll on their mind, on their stress, on their emotions? You know, what if you and your spouse, you know, the cop and their spouse, their relationship's on the rocks, man, because of whatever. And right before he came to work, they had the conversation / argument. Get your shit and get the fuck out. Don't be here when I get home. Don't come here. Don't be here when I get home. This shit better be empty, or I'm not coming home, or you go to work. Don't bring your ass home. That conversation was had before their shift started. So in their mind, they're on the verge of like bawling their eyes out and killing somebody because their relationship is done. Been married for, 12 years, got 2.5 kids, and their relationship is done. And now they're coming to deal with you because you got a bad attitude about something or getting into it with somebody. but they're supposed to be professional. Like, it's not easy to just shut that shit off, you know? So as a community, we need to recognize, like, hey, these people are people. These people are humans just like me. We all have bad days. Like, that doesn't give anybody a pass. Like, you don't get a pass to be like, oh, well, are you having a bad day? About to catch a divorce? Fuck him up. Can't do that. But just understand, like, you know, and so one thing I started doing was communicating that. I was talking to this lady the other day, taking a report. I was dehydrated. So when I get dehydrated, I'm sure with a lot of people, but when I get dehydrated, I have a hard time processing things. I'll know what I want to say, but it's hard for me to get it out. That's what I recognize when I don't have the water intake that I should have. So, you know, I'm sitting there talking to this lady. She's telling me about something, and I was just like, hey, listen, I'm not trying to discount your situation right now. Got a headache forming behind my eye. It's just been a long week. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be insensitive. That's where I am. And she was like, oh, no, I completely understand. Don't worry about it. But at least now, like, she knows where I'm coming from and how I feel. I'm still there. I'm dealing with her. You know, I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you what's going on in my head. So you don't think I'm just sitting there going, will you just shut the fuck up and give me this information? You know, that we're both communicating. Because so often we show up and we're like, hey, you know, I'm policeman so-and-so. What's going on? What happened? Okay, what's your last name? What's your first name? Date of birth? It's a good phone number. All right, do you know what their last name is? Where they stay at? How can I get a hold of them? Okay. All right, so you want me to go talk to them, press charges? Like, you just want to report? Like, what are you looking for here? What can I do for you? And it just comes off as repetitive, like it's a script. Like, same thing, every single call. Name, date of birth, phone number. What can I do for you? You lose that personability. You lose that personality. You really lose that communication ability to converse with that other subject and maybe make your job easier. You know, I used to locate for the phone company. So, you know, they say call before you dig. Julie, I used to locate for utilities for AT&T. And man, we had this dude that would spend more time trying to get out of work than if he'd have just done the damn locate and fucking took his pictures, threw his flags, and got out of there. My man would call every fucking contractor. He would, all right, the ticket says locate, you know, a 50 by 20 section out in front of this address. It's marked in white. I see it's marked in white. I got this line running through here. We got two ducts coming through here. You got some conduits over there. You got some fiber located running across over here. Where are you going to be digging? Oh, you're going to be 13 and a half inches off of the southwest corridor. If I go 5 feet from this location, then go east another 3 feet. Listen, get the fuck out. Locate that shit. Mark it up. Be on your way. But he would spend more time trying to get out of work than if he'd have just done the job. And I look at that now and it's like, yeah, he was wrong. Because in that line of work, you're just killing everybody else because we got to end up doing your tickets. You're getting overtime now because you're bullshit. But when you look at that story on the outside, my man built so many relationships because what he was doing was making each contractor feel like he cared about their project. He did not want his lines to be cut, and he wanted to make sure that their project was going to be done efficiently. Because as a contractor, if you hit a line that stops the project, now we got to determine whose fault it is, how bad is it. You know, there's some lines out there that you hit, you're going to cost thousands of dollars a minute that they're cut. You know, if not millions. There's some major lines going through cities that if they're cut, we're talking millions of dollars instantly. So what what we didn't realize was my man was networking. He was building so many relationships that would benefit him further in life. And so in our job, like, again, we don't have the ability to sit there for 3 hours and talk to you about some bullshit. But I don't think we really try to employ a conversation most of the time. We don't want to be there. We want to get back to our car, do whatever we're doing, go bullshit about whatever, go be quiet, go call the family, a friend, whatever, scroll social media. We don't want to be bothered. Like, there's become that huge disconnect between community and police. I am super young still, but I watched the old TV show Adam 12. It's like a black and white police show. Got this FTO that's teaching this recruit. And that was old school community policing. Like, the district officer would get sent to the school to talk to the kids about whatever, help with a project. They'd get out, they'd walk the beat, they would talk to the community. Everybody knew who each other was. Hill Street Blues, man. I used to watch Hill Street Blues all the time. And, they really get into relate. As you move forward, as more things started becoming acceptable on television and in movies, the storyline started to get more dynamic and it started to show more personal relationships within those people. And that's something we don't really talk about, man. We don't talk about our personal relationships and our personal feelings. I've been on numerous calls where I've been talking to a subject. There's other people on, other law enforcement on scene with me. And I can relate to that person. And I'll respond with a personal experience. And either on scene, like an instinctive reaction, or afterwards, they'll be like, yo, were you for real when you told them that? Like, was that a true story? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, I don't think they know how to take it because it's a personal fucking situation that typical people don't really share. And I don't know if they're just, like, taken back by, like, damn, this dude really just told them that's what happened to him. Or if they're like, man, you mean we can tell people that shit? And, because it's not custom for us to express our feelings, our personal feelings to people we're dealing with. But when they realize, like, me relating to that subject now opens a whole new door of relaxation and communication. You broke through that barrier. They're like, oh, okay. And I've had people ask me, like, dude, how do you do it? It's just so easy for you to talk to people. Because I've always had to talk to people. If I didn't, I don't want to be alone. Like, I was always alone as a kid, tucked away in a room or something. So I don't want to be alone. Like, I can't be alone. I need something. And so for me, like, it's easy for me to talk to people. Because at the end of the day, if I'm either going to see you again and you're going to remember me and be like, oh, that's the dude that told me he was in a similar situation. No cops ever told me that before. Or I'm never going to see you again. So who cares? You know why it's so hard for people to express their feelings? Ego and fear. They're fearful that somebody's going to make fun of them or tease them, and their ego gets in the way. Well, I'm a cop. That's never happened to me. Well, you know what? Maybe if it did, you'd fucking think differently and you'd respond accordingly and you'd have better communication skills. I'm a pretty blunt individual. I typically speak how I feel. The problem with that is, professionally, I can't always speak how I feel. because it looks bad. Everything's on camera now. So when I tell you to sit down, shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear another goddamn word come out of your mouth. Not a fucking sound. Shut your fucking mouth. When I say that, that's me at the end of my wits going, you're done. But that looks and sounds terrible on video. But in the same token, if I go, man, I'm not going to tell you again, be quiet. What am I going to do to shut her up? Am I going to fucking wrap my hands around her mouth? How's that going to look on video? You know what I mean? Some people have to be told to shut the fuck up and sit down. But you got to know when that is. And unfortunately, we become so comfortable with saying it all the time that we feel like we can say it all the time. And then you get to a point where it's like, you start out, because I know for me, like I would start out slowly slipping it in. Shut the fuck up. You heard me. Stop. You slip it in. And then you don't get caught. Nobody says anything to you. It's never brought up in attention. And then pretty soon you get so damn comfortable that your first reaction is to tell everybody, shut the fuck up. I'm talking. I'm the police. Listen to what the fuck I'm telling you. And then we get carried away because it's comfortable for us. And that's wrong, right? That's a question. That's wrong, right? Question mark. Is it wrong? If you say yeah, I know why you're saying yeah. If you say no, I know why you're saying no. But like for the police, is that professional? No. Does it need to be said? Yes. So for the community, for society, why is it okay? Why is it okay for you to tell me to shut the fuck up? Why is it okay for you to cuss me out? Why is it okay for you to berate me? Why? Why is it okay for you to do that, but expect me to respond professionally? Because at the end of the day, we're all human. And like I said, you treat an animal like an animal because we're animals. You treat an animal like an animal, you're gonna get bit. Whether that's physically or metaphorically, you know what I'm saying? So how do we fix that? How do we get to the point where we can talk freely with each other without the fear of consequence? Because I think we're beyond the time, I think we're beyond where everybody's expected to be like robots. Like, I think we're way past policing being robots. Where, sir, ma'am, how can I help you? We're beyond that. Let's speak freely. Listen, Linda, you done called me 6 times this week. I'm done. I'm not having it. I told you. There's legally nothing I can do to help you. I'm not going to do a report every single time you call me because this cat next door keeps meowing. I've told you there's nothing I can do about it. The next time you call me, you're the one in trouble. Do you understand me? Sometimes that needs to be said. But the way people want you to react, so when you respond like that, Linda's reaction, oh my, you're not going to talk to me that way. You didn't say one cuss word. You told her facts. You told her what was going to happen, expectations. But she didn't like the tone in which you delivered it in. So now, because we've become an anti-policing society, Linda calls and complains on the cop. Supervisors watch the video and say, yeah, you were a little too stern with her. Next time, maybe take it down a notch. Oh, and by the way, that complaint, it's not going to go nowhere. But because of our anti-policing society and our laws we've enacted and allowed to be enacted, that complaint now stays in your file for the rest of your career. So going back to the beginning, police have a very tough job. You're expected to handle your own personal experiences and shut the door when you come to work. You're expected to really flip a switch when you come to work. And that's hard, man, because like if you flip a switch, you're not really, I feel like you're not really being you. You know, like me, the type of person I am, I cuss. I'm sorry. I'm trying to work on that. But you know what? Like when you hear me speak, when you hear me truly speak and you're like, yo, that's Vinny. I know who that is. That's me being me. Like I come off as aggressive. I posted my first video and this lady was like, something about she wanted to see me. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up real quick because I want to be accurate. I posted the video and hold on. She made a comment like she seen me in public and she was like, you know, I was gonna say something, but your demeanor really made me. Oh, here it is. Hold on. She's like, I remember seeing you working one day. You had responded to a call to the mall. I wanted to crack jokes and whatnot, but was so very impressed with your demeanor and body language that I kept it classy, nodded, and kept going. Wow. So first of all, Carrie, I apologize because when I first read this comment, I took it as I read it too quickly, and I took it as that you see me as being aggressive, like as an asshole. So you said you responded to a call to the mall. I wanted to crack jokes, but was very impressed with your demeanor and body language that I kept it classy, nodded, and kept going. So she says your stature alone can be intimidating. So when your demeanor and body language is showing integrity and true concern, it's refreshing. So, and I tried to touch on that with her a little bit in my response to that on social media, but like I've always been told I naturally look aggressive. I have that like resting bitch face, shit like that, right? I naturally look aggressive. I talk very aggressively with an assertive tone. And that's, like she mentioned, that's very intimidating. It can be intimidating. But that's how we have to conduct ourselves. You get in that mindset because everybody you deal with, unfortunately, is a threat. Like, we come to work not knowing what we're going to encounter. You know, much like an electrician, their biggest fear, I would imagine, is like being electrocuted. Maybe. Which is deadly, you know, it's serious. So they take those precautions. Lockout, tag out, shit like that, right? I can't just stop, frisk everybody, make sure they don't have a weapon, and place you in handcuffs every conversation I want to have with somebody. So boom, that was a great analogy. So lockout, tag out. For those of you who don't know, when you're dealing with like electricity, and I don't know if this is 100% accurate, so bear with me, but lockout, tag out, like you place a contraption in a particular area of that electronic device that prohibits it from being turned on while you're working on it. Okay, if that makes sense. So essentially, their very easiest term, let's unplug the situation. We're going to unplug the cord from the outlet and put a lock on it so it cannot be plugged in. This thing cannot be turned on and electrocute me. Thus, there's no threat to me being electrocuted. So for me, let's use that analogy for me dealing with somebody. If I want to feel safe and comfortable, the easiest way, I'm going to search you, make sure you don't have a weapon, and place you in handcuffs. Now you cannot physically harm me. I can't do that with everybody. I have to, who is it? Some Marine general or something, you know, like smile at everyone but have a plan to kill them at the same time. That saying, like that's what we are now. Like we have to have like this. Hi, how are you? I am a police officer. How may I help you? The whole time you're like, man, I will shoot this dude so quick. Like if he just makes that wrong move, if he draws that gun, if I see that knife in his hand, like that's what's processing. Not all the time, but you get the picture. We don't have that ability to just be relaxed and nonchalant and oh yeah, because when you do, boom, something happens and you can't react accordingly like you should. It takes you longer. You don't recognize things. The more complacent you get, you're slower at recognizing the threat. You know, and I started out working for a very small department. It had like 3 full-time people, like 9 part-time people. Part-time people, I'm going to tell you right now, God love them. I respect them. But most of them didn't know what they were doing. That's not their fault. It's the department's fault. Because if you're going to employ someone to do a job, you got to ensure that they know how to do the job. If you're not making sure they know how to do the job and you're allowing them to continue to work there and they mess up, that's not on them. I mean, it is to an extent, but it's on the department. It's on the workplace. So now that I'm on a larger department and I'm experiencing a whole lot more diversity in calls and interactions with the public, we start to look at some of these small departments and we're like, yo, I would love to see how they'd handle this. Because we get that experience with handling these calls on a daily basis, you start to hear these other departments, you know, their radio traffic, and you start to read their reports and hear how they're handling these calls, and you're like, yo, where's the attorney at? Because there's not experience there. There's not the promotion for training. Like, dude, everybody's like, oh, you need to be trained. You know, they're passing these laws. You got to take these classes. You got to do that. Man, listen. I don't disagree. I'm huge on training. I do not disagree with training. But it's got to be done properly. You can't give somebody a 20-minute online course to flip through a PowerPoint and take a test and be like, oh, they were trained. Because let me tell you something. I'm a hands-on kind of person. I didn't read my first book till I was like 28 years old. Now when I read books, I've got to read them like, comprehension. I've got an issue with comprehension. I've got to read them a handful of times to be able to regurgitate that information back to you effectively. Podcasts. When I listen to podcasts, if I get a good one and I really like it and I pick it out, I got to listen to that joint a handful of times for me to be able to come back to you and explain it to you efficiently and correctly. And even then I get jacked up. So now you want to give me a 20-minute PowerPoint. Click, 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 click. Oh, hold on, pause. Got to go handle this call. Come back. Click, click, click. Congratulations, you passed the course with a 72%. Needed a 70 to pass. Deuces. Now it says I'm certified in that joint. I've met the basic requirements. And I'm expected to be a professional. You know why that is? Because it's cost effective to do online training. You know, local department, for example, they've got considerable amount more of police officers. And they do training. It's like their annual training where they go over everything they're required to be trained in. You know, so we've got like certain topics we're required to be trained in annually, every 3 years, stuff like that. So what they'll do is they'll take a handful of people and just cycle everybody through, like a week at a time, cycle everybody through. So now you're creating overtime, forces, minimal staffing, stuff like that. All of that takes a toll. When we have minimal staffing, when you have forces, people working overtime, unwanted overtime, that affects our response with the community. And what I mean by that is if we normally have 6 cars on, but you know we can do without this car, so we're not going to have that car on today, so we don't have to worry about filling that position. But these 2 positions over here, they're both getting forced for 8 hours. So now you got somebody who's been up for potentially 24 hours responding to you, and you expect them to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and, how we doing, sir, ma'am? How can I help you? Man, they're half awake and pissed off because they don't want to be there. No matter how much money they're making. You're making $75 an hour. They don't want to be there. They'd rather be at home in their comfortable ass bed, sleeping next to their spouse, going out to dinner with their kid because they just won their game or whatever. You know what I mean? But instead, they're stuck there taking your call. Not that your call's not important, but they're there with you and your family, and they're being taken away from their family. So that's going through their mind. So then, do you think they want to sit there and cordially have a conversation with you? And then when they don't, but they're being respectful about it, you get an attitude because you feel like you're not getting quality service. All because we didn't recognize that we're all human. We all have issues. But it's become socially acceptable to hate police. It's become acceptable to discount our feelings and our thoughts. And that social acceptance of negativity towards policing has in turn caused police officers to do a handful of things. Walk away and quit, leave the department, go retire early, go find another job, or just start treating people like they don't care. And that has a negative toll. So it's just a revolving door, so like a recycling door. You hate me, I hate you, you hate me, I hate you, you treat me like shit, I treat the next person like shit, they treat the next cop like shit. It's just a revolving. And then that one time you get that nice person, that nice police officer that takes 2 extra minutes to listen to your story and goes, I can empathize with you. Never been in that situation, but I can recognize what you're saying. I respect it. You're kind of off track right now, but we can deal with this. And then that officer goes to leave, and the subject is like, oh my God, I wish more officers were like you. How the fuck are we supposed to respond to that shit? Because most officers would be like, oh yeah, we're all alike. Sometimes we get busy. Sometimes, and you try to explain it, but they don't want to hear that shit. Because the last officer was pissy with them, because their last call, people were pissy with them. It's a recycling effect. Communication. That's what this is all about. And it's hard. It's hard because of multiple things. Like, I'm doing this podcast, I'm making these videos, I'm talking about this shit, and there's coworkers of mine talking shit about me, like, oh, this hug-a-thug ass motherfucker. Listen, that's the fucking problem, is we're all so anti-fucking everything that we forgot what this job is truly about, and at the end of the day, we're all fucking people. So, we all need to take a breath and start to talk a little more. I had this, and I might have said this before, but so when I worked in my other department, we would, my buddy and I, my partner, my recruit, longest standing dude in FTO, we went out of our way to talk to people. Like, we did unconventional policing. We had unconventional police tactics that we utilized, and we ran with it. And when I say unconventional police tactics, like, so we worked in we had the ability to, like, just drive through fields and, like, pull up. Like, we didn't do what your other local departments did. We would park erratically. We would, drive around with our lights on real slow as we're going through the areas we patrol. If you're at a picnic table, instead of parking on the street and walking 100 yards, we just drive right up to the picnic table. And we approached Everybody. We got out on everybody. How we doing? What are we doing? What's going on? Every single person got treated that way. So I call him my recruit, like that's his nickname. My nickname from him is 15 feet because I didn't run. If I ran more than 15 feet, keys, grab the keys from him, I'll meet you in the car, dog. I'm not running. We treated everybody the same. And we really started to build our name, build up our names in the communities that were more minority and poverty-stricken areas. Typically, where an increase of crime is, we would focus our attention on, and we really did a good job at policing those areas to allow children to play. Like, I'm just going to say it, like, you were able to utilize those specific areas as they should have been utilized. So one time, man, there was one of the housing projects. I'm helping a local agency look for a missing child. And the schools around here all wear uniforms for the most part. And so I walk up, and there's these old ladies sitting outside on these porches in this row, and they're congregating, and I'm like, hey, have you guys seen this child? Give a description. They just kind of look around. They won't really acknowledge me. And so I'm sitting there going, well, if you fucking see him, call the police because he's missing. And I walk away because I'm being a smartass. So then every day for like a month, it's summertime. Every day for like a month, I drive down there. Stop right in front of that fucking house. Roll down my passenger window. How you doing? I go park across the street in the field. And then one day, one of the ladies comes across. She's like, I really appreciate what you guys have been doing around here. My kids can come out and play now because somebody's always sitting over here. We really appreciate that. Are you the one that's always driving by waving? I say, yeah. I say, you know why I'm doing that shit? Because you guys didn't want to talk to me when I was looking for that little black kid. Sweetie, you got to understand. And she started telling me about how, like, the back and forth between community and police. And we sat there and talked for, like, a little while. But it took that. It took that initiative from me. I wasn't doing shit. Now, granted, I didn't have a call load. I wasn't getting called to calls like the local department that would respond to her house does. They get calls. So I had that ability to take that time to talk to them, communicate to them effectively. And they respected that. What they don't know, though, like what they don't recognize, is that the department they're mainly dealing with, they don't have that ability. For the most part, they don't have that time to sit there and talk to somebody the way I did. That was a huge benefit to me being there. And really, like, I would advocate for that department and justify why they didn't have the time. I tell people even today, if you see that department driving, if you see one of their cars going somewhere, they're not looking for somebody to pull over. They're going to their next call. They're the type of department that comes on and they got calls holding most of the time. Where us, like even in my department now, depending on the day, the temperature, the time, we might not get no calls at all. Just depends. And I'm not saying that city's balls to the wall. That department's balls to the wall all the time. But for the most part, they're earning their dollar. And it's not communicated enough, and it's not recognized enough within the community. So when the community starts to go, well, he was an asshole, they're not understanding that my man was just forced in on his day off. You get 2 days off a week, dog. He was forced in on his day off and might work a double. He was supposed to go to his kid's birthday party in the afternoon and then go out to dinner with his wife for their anniversary that evening. But then he got forced in, and if he doesn't come in, he gets disciplined, so that it loses dollars out of his pocket and potential, prohibition for him to become, to advance to a different area within that department. There's a lot of things, man. If you're working at McDonald's and they say, hey, If you're working at damn McDonald's and they say, hey, you coming in tomorrow. It's your day off, but you're working tomorrow. The fuck I am? Like, no, you ain't. And you can say, oh, well, you making 3 times, 4 times more money. Okay. I get it. And there's certain sacrifices that every job makes. But understand, these are the people, like, at your job, if you're forced in, you don't hold that. If you're overworked at your job, for the most part, I know there's jobs out there that are very important. I'm not discounting anybody's position anywhere. Long-winded, what I'm trying to say is, at our job, we affect people's lives. We have the ability to take people's lives. And now you got this individual out here overworked on their day off, stressed the fuck out. Wife's yelling at him. Wife's pissed off because job came before family. You don't give a shit about us. You could have called in. You could have told them no. All this shit. So now in his mind, he's got his wife blowing him up on the phone, sending him text messages. Fuck you. Oh, here's your daughter blowing out her birthday candles. Glad you could be here. This motherfucker is psychologically fucked up right now. And he's over here listening to you talk about your neighbor and how you two don't get along. And you want him to be fucking kind to you. But you don't acknowledge that. You don't think about that. The only thing you think about is, oh, this motherfucker's a cop. He's here to do his fucking job. And it's rough, man. Because our ego gets in the way. A lot of times we don't think about it. And even if we do think about it, it's none of your fucking business. But we don't go, I'm sorry, man, before you get started, just understand, I've had a long day. I'm stressed the fuck out. I'm supposed to be at my kid's birthday party right now. My wife's mad at me. God, I hope I don't get divorced. Go ahead. Tell me what's going on. What's wrong? I mean, and that's not effective. Like, that's not realistic. That's not something we should do. Like, oh, here's my problem. Before we get started, just understand I'm fucked up in the head right now. Please proceed. We can't do that. And I mean, I'm not saying it's, that's not effective. We can't do that. But that's who you're dealing with. You're dealing with another human. On the community, when you call the police, you're dealing with another human that has emotions and struggles just like you. And they're expected to be responsible and professional and effective when dealing with your situation, all while struggling deep down. So then they get done. They get done with their shift. They're dreading coming home because they pull in the driveway. And the spouse is sitting on the couch. If not already asleep, they're sitting on the couch with an attitude. How was your night? Little Susie Q, she got this for her birthday. Grandma and Grandpa got her this. You should have seen her face light up when they gave it to her. And in your mind, you'll never experience that specific moment because you weren't there. So there's another dig. You know what I mean? You're like, I'm sorry. What did you want me to do? If I called in, I get suspended. I get a day off. I get a black mark. I'm trying to get on this unit. I'm trying to go for sergeant, lieutenant, whatever one day. And if I would have called in, if I would have told them no, then that prohibits me from getting that. If I get that position, that's more money. That's better days off. That's whatever. But I had to miss this experience with you and my family. And now you're yelling at me. It's a lose-lose for me. I can't win. So now there's a conflict. So for 2 days, they go back and forth. They're not talking. Until finally, they either blow up at each other or one of them gets the other one to be like, okay, I'm sorry. Fucked up. Didn't understand it. Because we don't communicate in our relationships personally either. You go from, how do you come home? How many citizens, how many members of the community go to their job and deal with negativity all day. When I say negativity, I'm not talking about working at Comcast customer service, dealing with people cussing you out because their bill got raised. I get that, and I can respect that. But how many people go to work, get called to a location, and take a report for a sex assault on a baby? Or elder abuse, where this elder person has just been taken advantage of or physically abused. How many people, desensitization? How many people go to work every day? EMS, firefighters, they're on the same page as police. How many people go to work and deal with visually horrific scenes, whether it's a shooting, a stabbing, an accident? Until you have seen through somebody's skull, like, you can look inside, put a flashlight in that joint. Boom. You got brain matter. You're walking in brain matter. This person looks like they belong on a Halloween poster. Until you've seen that, like the first time you're like, damn, that was crazy. Second time you're like, oh shit, did you see that person's head? Third time you're like, yo, where are we going to eat? Dude, I'm fucking starving. So, you're on a call and this child is mangled. This person's got a bone sticking out of their leg. They're screaming, and then they all of a sudden die from shock, whatever. This person was shot in the face with a rifle. Then you go home, and wife's like, hey, we're meeting the family at Longhorns. About 17 of us going out to eat. You gonna jump in the shower and be ready? Now you're sitting at fucking Longhorns like this. Take a double shot of Hennessy, please. You also bring me 2 Coronas. Yeah, good. Celebrating? No. I just got off work. And you're not sociable because you haven't decompressed, and then on the drive home, your spouse is like, fuck's wrong with you? You were an asshole tonight. You didn't talk to anybody. You know what I mean? We don't talk about that. And I'm not saying that happens every day, but you start to become desensitized. And when you do see something that is significant, we don't acknowledge it. We don't address it. We don't talk about it. There's a lot of new police officers. Like, I've got a lot of new people that work under me. Like, not directly, I don't supervise them, but they're lower than me in seniority. And they're damn sure fucking brand new when it comes to policing, like 3 days on. And you think they know how to fucking process this shit? And nobody talks to them about it. Nobody talks to us about it. Mental health is not promoted. What's promoted is maintain professionalism. Don't cuss. Don't use cuss words. Look presentable. Okay, I'll look presentable. I'll shine my boots. I'll crease my uniform. I'll wash my vest. I'll speak clearly. I will not use cuss words. I will not raise my voice. But I'll just continue to bury all of these visual things that I've dealt with, all of these emotions I have inside. I'll continue to bury them and hope that they don't fucking explode when they're not supposed to. Like, I've gone to a therapist. I've gone to a therapist on my own, and I've gotten to the point at work where they were like, yo, guess what, dog? You going to talk to somebody, it's mandatory. Because you can't keep acting like this. And I'm not going to say it didn't help, but I'm not going to say that it helped. I'm a stubborn ass person. Most cops are. We're alpha types. Like, well, you can't tell us shit. But luckily, the dude I went and spoke to was a former police officer and could resonate with a lot of the shit that I was saying. And a lot of my issues stem from my childhood. But that doesn't mean that because you had a good childhood that you're going to be perfect. The more you start to deal with society, the more you'll start to respond like society. And if the community, if we could get them to understand our point of view, it would be easier. If we could start to understand the community's point of view. And what I mean by that is like in the prison system. So if you ever looked at where the prisons are, for the most part, like there's a couple when you start to get into different states and stuff, New York, stuff like that. But for the most part, where I'm from, if you look at where the prisons are, Cook County, Chicago excluded, you look where the prisons are, they're in rural areas. They primarily employ those citizens from that area. So you start to get a lot of rural people who have minimal experience with diversity working at these confinement facilities that are 60, 70, 80% minority driven, or, they house between 60 and 80% minorities. And that's who they start to associate that particular minority with. The individual covering himself in feces. The individual calling you every name in the book. The individual who is consistently battering you. The individual who doesn't know how to speak correctly. The individual who doesn't know how to read. Can't complete a sentence. Dresses a certain way. We start to associate all of that group with those individuals. I remember when I worked at the prison that I worked at in Illinois, and there was numerous times, because I lived in Peoria, but I worked an hour away. And there was times that I would hear people be like, "Oh, dude, we don't go to Peoria. We never go to Peoria." Because they did not like the way people acted, and all they see is the news, and then the people that they work that are incarcerated. And there was a couple of people, man, that you would look at them and be like, "Oh, this motherfucker! Look at this racist ass biker." Turns out, man, they were in the military. They were very diverse. And they understood a lot, and they usually were the ones that ran the best housing units because they understood people like me. Like, I'm not bragging, but man, I ran a damn good housing unit because I related to people. It was easy for me to communicate with those people. So we don't allow ourselves to understand each other. We don't allow ourselves to see different points of views. And that makes it hard. More so on the community side. It's easy for us to, as police, to try to understand where you're coming from. Because we're human. Even if we haven't directly been involved with your situation, we've probably dealt with somebody who has, and we can pull from that experience and go, "Oh, I get it now." I've dealt with tons of these calls. They all respond the same way or similarly. I get it now. I can understand what you're saying. But for you, as the community, you'll sit there and look at me and be like, "You ain't shit. You don't know what I'm going through. You don't want to take the time to recognize that I do understand what you're going through. But all you see is a uniform. you see a facade, and that's all you're going off of. So for me, like I tend to be very nonchalant. I tend to be very relaxed, and I'm very open and blunt. Like I'll tell you straight up, yo, I've done that. Yeah, I've been abused. I was on a call a couple of weeks ago. Guy was training a dude. We're in this fucking hallway. Who is it? Open the door, ma'am. The fuck? Let's address ourselves, you know? So this individual was having some emotional, mental breakdown, issues. And somebody called and was concerned about him. This trainee is trying to talk to this person through the door in a hallway. It's like an apartment building. And my man says, well, it's not funny. He says, well, what's wrong? Yo, this lady starts talking very clearly about how she was abused. I'm like, yo, we got to get her to open this door. People don't need to hear this shit. So when she finally opened the door, he was clearly not getting anywhere with her. So I just stepped in and I'm like, listen, went back to my training. Like sometimes that's the best way to start out is back to your training. I was like, ma'am, I'm so-and-so. I'm a crisis intervention team member. I'm trained in these situations, like verbatim from the class, right? And it worked for me that time. There's times it hasn't worked, trust me, but it worked. And she just kind of looked at me and I said, I just want to tell you right now, I know what you're saying. She goes, you don't know shit. And I said, man, let me tell you something. I was abused as a kid, just like you. And she was like, so you understand? And I was like, yeah. I said, but this is, and we built that, I was able to connect with her. Now, I'm not saying we can all do that, and I'm not always going to be able to get that response. But it worked, and had I just wanted to bottle that in and not tell her that, what is it? How is it negatively affecting me telling her that? It's not. It's helping the situation, and believe it or not, it's helping me. And I didn't realize that until recently. Every time I talk about it, it's like another layer coming off. It makes it easier to talk about. And it unburies it. It gets it out of there. It's like a whew, thank you. You know what I mean? So if you're not able to do it on the call, if you're not able to do it with your partner, with your spouse, with your coworkers, do it with a stranger. Just tell them something. If you can relate to them, use a story to relate to them. And as society, start asking questions. Have you ever been through this? Have you ever experienced this? Can you tell me that you know what I'm saying? And if the officer's like, I'm sorry, I've never been through that. I'm sorry, I've never experienced that before. But I can recognize that you're hurting right now. Just accept that. So often we get so shut down that we're like, you don't know what I'm saying. I'm not talking to you no more. But why? And then you'll be mad at the cop. So then you just experienced a negative encounter with that officer because they didn't understand you. One thing I've learned the very fucking hard way, is communication. If you're not understanding what I'm saying, and I say it again, so my hat is green. What? The hat that I am wearing is green. It's the color green. Yeah, I don't understand what you're saying. The color green is on my hat. My hat is green. Okay, yeah, I don't get it. At some point, I need to recognize maybe I'm not communicating that effectively. How else can I explain to you the hat I'm wearing is green? Now, I know that's a very poor example, very generic, and very, very elementary, right? But you get what I'm saying. If you're communicating something, if you're saying something to someone and they're not getting the point, so often we get frustrated at that person for not understanding. But how about we take a step back, breathe, and go, how can I explain this differently? And even like talk through it. All right, listen. So I'm trying to tell you that my hat is green and you're not understanding, so bear with me. I'm trying to think of a way to work this out. I don't think maybe I'm not saying it correctly. Maybe I'm not, using the right words. But like my hat is green. You know what I mean? Like you got to think of a different way to say it, different way to communicate that. And then maybe they'll start to ask questions like, okay, so like which hat are we talking about? Like the one that you normally wear, or like you have a different hat? You know what I mean? Questions lead to answers, to more questions, to resolution. Like we've got to be able to understand that communication is not a one-way street. I say something, you must understand it. We all interpret things differently. If I go to a multi-million-dollar community and I'm dealing with a 70-year-old female, and I'm like, man, listen, you bitch ass bitch, what the fuck you talking about? One, she's probably not gonna understand me. Two, she is gonna be so scared and pissed off at the language that I'm using. And on the contrary, if you go to a very urban area where somebody is very comfortable with expressing themselves verbally, and I show up and I'm like, excuse me, man. Can you just calm down? Can you calm down ma'am, please just calm down? Ma'am, can you please calm down? Yo, you're finna get ran the fuck over. That's a good situation where you go, yo, shut the fuck up! Not necessarily. Don't say it like that. But you've got to know when to use the right dialogue. I had a lieutenant at the prison one time. At the prison we went, it was like COs, sergeants, lieutenants, captain, major. And I had a lieutenant one time tell me, he's like, sometimes you need to tell people, shut the fuck up. And I didn't really get it. Like, I was like, man, he's giving me a pass. Yo, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like oh shit, I got the pass, huh? But it wasn't until I really started communicating with multiple different people with different backgrounds, and I understood there are some people that only respond to certain things. That's the environment that they're brought up in. And I'm not saying that it's okay to act that way all the time, or even sometimes, but there's certain times that you are going to be required to use a different communication style. And we've got to be able to identify when that is and when it's okay. And that's the other problem, is we got to make these decisions very rapidly, and we're expected to maintain professionalism while we're doing it. And we slip up. And I think what we need to understand is it's okay to say sorry when we do slip up on both sides, community and police. A lot of times the community will be quicker to apologize than the police will. From what I've seen, we fuck up. It's like we roll with it because we gotta like stay in that role. Community fucks up. 9 times out of 10 they apologize after they're being disciplined, or it gets pointed out that they're wrong. But a lot of times it's the community that's like, yo, my bad, dog. Had a rough day. I was my bad. Why can't we say my bad too? You know what I mean? Like, why can't we be like, my bad, bro. My fault. I'm going to bring it down. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. My bad. But again, we're looked at as two separate entities. And I respect that. Like, we should be. Because without that distinction in the hierarchy of society, police, citizen, without that, then we're here. Who's supposed to take control? You know what I mean? If we're equal on equal playing fields, who's supposed to take control? Police are supposed to be held to a higher standard to be able to take that dominant control and go, I got it. But it's a fine line, man, and it takes a toll. We ruin a lot of relationships. We ruin a lot of lives with our career. And there's not like I know what happens on the business side. And there's a lot of very tough careers out there where people ruin their relationships because they put their career first. Police, we really ruin a lot of relationships because we're not expressing ourselves effectively. We're not communicating with our loved ones and our spouses. We're not communicating with the public. And I think that's something that really needs to be focused on. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, is to build those talking points, to point them out, to acknowledge our faults in policing and in the community side, and get everybody to understand, like, see things through the opposite eyes. I would implore you, if you are in the community, we're done with all this COVID shit, I really implore you to reach out to a police agency, preferably one that's pretty active, and ride along. Do some ride-alongs. Do interviews. Talk to people. When you ride along, talk to them. As police, when we're in roll call or we're in briefing, and they say, hey, officer such and such, you got to ride along today. They're going to be with you all shift. Instead of going, oh, fuck, what did I do? How am I the lucky one? Look at it and go, oh, we about to talk, baby. I'm going to feed you, baby bird. Hop in this front seat. And talk to him, man. Like, tell him what your thoughts are. If you hate the fucking job, you hate policing, tell him. Find a new job, but tell him. Tell him why. Try to get them to see the job through your eyes. And if they walk away and they're like, yo, that cop is a fucking nut. He hates his job. He shouldn't be doing it. Maybe they'll walk away saying that, oh shit, this is a nut-ass cop. He shouldn't be a cop. But maybe they'll walk away and be like, yo, this dude really needs some help. This job's really taking a toll on him. Maybe. Maybe you walk away and go, man, I go to all these calls, and after discussing it with Mr. Public over here, I never realized that that's how they see things. So I really implore you as the community to get out and try to do a ride-along. Go do a job internship at one of these police departments and see who they're dealing with. Go sit in dispatch. Talk to dispatch. See who they're dealing with. See who you're talking to when you call. Okay? When you see a cop, stop. Now, I say that. I sit in a public area. So a lot of times I'll sit at this local gas station. And I have learned that when I'm ready to eat, I go and hide. If I need some me time, I go hide. If I'm not prepared to have someone approach me, I go hide. Because I don't want to give that opportunity for me to be sitting there, someone approach my vehicle, and I go, roll the window down. How we doing? What's going on? Oh, hey, Mr. Officer, blah, 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 blah. Wanted to say hello. Because you got this defensive demeanor, but they just wanted to come say hi and thank you for being in a public place and potentially preventing some stupid bullshit from popping off because you're just sitting there. And then you're like, oh, thank you very much. Fuck, I'm just trying to eat. You know what I mean? So, like, we got to recognize, yo, if you want to be by yourself, go fucking take 2 minutes by yourself. But I sit in a public place because people want that. People want to feel safe. They want to feel comfortable. And on the community aspect side of things, just because I'm sitting in a public place, I'm not looking at you, dog. I'm not looking at you. I'm not trying to get you. Nothing's gonna pop off because I'm here. I'm not making this a hostile place. You know how many times they've been like, yo, can you go somewhere else? You making this hostile. I don't feel safe because you're here. On how the fuck do you not feel safe because I'm here? Because you know so many people that have been killed by the police. Those are the responses that we get and that are given, So that's something that we need to build on. Instead of you coming out directly telling me you don't feel safe, get to know me. Let me get to know you. And almost 9 times out of 10, man, the people that are most defensive and apprehensive are the ones mostly involved in shit that'll get them in trouble, right? I mean, that's just my experience. That's the facts of what I see, It's unfortunate. A lot of times we feel the need to lie. Like I come across you and you feel the need to lie because you think you're going to get in trouble. You ain't did shit wrong, but you start lying. So then I get defensive because I know you're lying, and then it just goes down a fucking rabbit hole. So then I've spent an hour dealing with you, and then I am frustrated and fed up. So then I start to build a mental image of what the next person I'm dealing with who's acting like you is going to be like. It's the same thing, the way the society treats police. We start to train our minds to treat similar subjects in society the same way. It's like, how do we combat that? Communication. So listen, baby birds, I've been talking for quite a bit. I kind of get long-winded. To drive this point home, policing is a very tough job, man. Like they said in that podcast at the beginning, it's a very tough job. And I really implore you guys to start a dialogue with each other. Police, start a dialogue. If you see somebody sitting at a park bench and they're just chilling, go talk to them. Just start a dialogue. Community, you see a cop just sitting there, you go into the gas station and he's sitting there. When you come back out, if you got 5 minutes, just go talk to him. Hey, how's it going? Are you from around here? You just work around here? How you doing? Everything good? Yeah? All right, well, I'm Miss Daisy. I live over here. If you ever need anything, just swing by. You know how good that would make, the cop feel? Like, oh, I thank you so much. And as the citizen, I would imagine, like if it was me and a cop rolls up on me, unfortunately the first part today, I didn't do it. I was here. I knew nothing wrong. What do you want? Why are you harassing me? If a cop pulls up on you, man, just respond accordingly. Hey, how you doing? I'm Officer so-and-so. I just seen you sitting over here. I wanted to make sure everything was fine. You need anything? Everything good? How's your day going? You go to school around here? No? Okay. You live around here? No? All right. Are you good? You don't go to school around here? You don't live around here? You don't need anything? I'm just making sure you're okay. I see you sitting here. All right, well, if you need anything, I'll be around. Okay. Have a good day. I know that's theatrical, but you get my point. Just start talking to people, man. The more we can understand each other, the better everybody's lives are going to be. I'm really trying to get rid of this whole anti-cop movement, man. Like, if I can just get a couple people from society to start to see it through our eyes, and if I can get a couple of our guys and girls to start viewing things differently and responding differently. I think it's going to be a really good deal, man. Next week, I'm going to be talking to two gentlemen who were, they're from the streets. They had a particular view on policing, and then they, at least for the one of them, they met me. And through conversation, we've started to build that relationship, and they've started to view policing a little differently. We're starting to talk about things to where they can understand, oh, that's why they do what they do. That's why they react a certain way. I get it now. And so that helps. I look forward to having them on next week. I think it's going to be very interesting and beneficial. I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy it because it gives a perspective from them, and I think you're going to be able to relate to it. So, hey, I would love to hear some feedback. Love to hear some topics that you guys want to talk about. This whole video has been about communication, and I really want you guys to communicate with yourselves. Listen to your body. Understand that when you're getting stressed out, you need to reach out. Okay, because if it doesn't cost you your job, it could cost you your livelihood or your life. So reach out, man. I'm always here. Social media, text me, call me, hit me up, email me, whatever it is, man. Come by the house. I'm always here for you. And I know what it's like from somebody who's been emotionally fucked up, somebody who's personally thought about taking their own life, somebody who's almost been in a divorce. I know it, man. So talk to me. And talk to somebody else. Start to build that dialogue, man. You guys in the community, build that dialogue with each other. Talk about it. Hey, man, what do you think about that cop? Hey, man, blah, blah, blah. Whatever, start to build that fucking dialogue. Police, hey, let's start to take a couple extra seconds and talk to somebody. Try to relate to that person, okay? Try to view the situation through their eyes. And as always, man, when you wake up, have a smile on your face. Think of something positive. Let the first thing you think about be positive. And then try to do one thing nice to somebody, even if it's yourself, man. Because even you deserve to have something nice happen to you. So think about that. Hope you guys have a great night. It's going to be a beautiful day tomorrow. Enjoy it. Do something positive. Stay positive. Give me some feedback. I love you guys. Fly with me, baby birds. We're on this journey to try to build this gap between policing and community. So holler at me. Love you guys, man.